put my trust in God. I watched them do work before you ever had a job. And I ain't mad about it, I'm just happy I survived. The coach ain't try to teach you if you know that you ain't live. The struggle was a must and they didn't get it. You wanna be fit, but was you working on your fitness? Can I get a witness? Me and success better have resemblance. Real lion-hearted, I ain't quitting till I finish.
Hi everybody, this is Michael McMillan. This is IAM Foster, and today we have Greg Rapport, the executive director and founder of Age Out Angels. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Michael. It's good to be with you.
It's good to be with you too. Glad we got through that. So we'll get started on the first couple of questions that we have. At what age did you enter the foster care system?
I was never officially in the foster care system. When I was 11, my family was in a horrible car accident, and my parents were stuck in a hospital in Georgia, and we were from New Jersey. We were a New Jersey family, and so I went into what would be today called homelessness, and then kinship care. Mm-hmm. We got shipped around. My brother and I got shipped around to different relatives, who were supposed to take care of us. And as you're probably aware, right now there's a tremendous move in the foster care system to move children, to put fewer children in foster care and more in kinship care. Right? And I can tell you for a fact, having experienced that, that there are just as many psycho kinship care people out there as there are psycho foster families.
I would agree with you on that.
I mean, I say that with all good intentions, because there are foster families that are good families, certainly, and there are kinship families that are good families that take care of the children. But there's just as many psychos on both sides. God.
Yes, sir.
But so I didn't experience the brunt of the foster care system.
Okay, I got you.
I know what it feels like to be kicked
placed
out of a house.
You still witness them moving from place to place, like we certainly do.
I know what it feels like to be kicked out of a house at 11 o'clock at night in a snowstorm at the age of 11. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to have some asshole mad at me for something stupid punish me by taking my guitar and throwing it up against the wall so it breaks. I know what those things feel like, and when I think about what some foster kids are going through right now, especially there are stories about group homes in Michigan and places like that where just to dominate them, they practically torture the kids. I know what it feels like to have to deal with an asshole. So anyway, please.
No, I got you.
I want to think of something happier.
That's good, because I can tell you stories about group homes all day.
Oh my.
So, do you remember, like, after the accident, you going through kinship and everything? Do you remember how that affected you as a child?
Oh,
like,
hell yeah.
Were you angry?
Oh, it had a profound effect and an immediate effect. Was I angry? I was mad at people, who would try to hurt me. Mm-hmm. But in general, I wasn't angry that, oh my, this is my life. What am I going to do? I wasn't that kind of angry. I was free. I was free. I could run away if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. My brother did. He was. But what was happening is we were spiraling downward. Just by being, I was 11, he was 15, and stupid, right? Just mm-hmm. by being young and stupid. So I fell in with a crowd of people, and I learned some things, like I learned how to make a bomb. What a stupid thing for an 11-year-old to learn how to make a bomb. What good could possibly come of that? Uh-huh. But that's the people that we were falling in with. You see? And so if I had continued down that path, I would surely be in jail or dead.
Got you.
At this point,
Got you. So what advice can you give kids to help deal with that type of emotion that they're feeling going through a situation like that?
Emotion is something that you have to learn how to compartmentalize. You have to be able to take your emotional feelings and put them in a little compartment and not deal with them while you have to deal with other things to move your life forward.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't let those emotions take over. If the emotions dominate you, then you can't do other things. I stopped going to school, I stopped doing all the things that were in my life that were moving my life forward. I stopped doing. Okay, and you can't let those emotions take over. You have to be able to feel them. When you're mistreated as a child, that's a trauma that doesn't go away. Like, that stays with you. But it can't take over. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I will agree with that as well. That's pretty much what I said in some earlier episodes too. It's like, I personally can say right now that I'm still learning that. I still allow my emotions that I felt in my past trauma or something to take over to today, to take me over. But then sometimes I realize that's what's happening, and then I can push it to the side and be like, okay, not today. And then I bring out positive energy for myself.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when it affects me the most? Because what you're describing is a lifelong kind of thing. You never get perfect at compartmentalizing it. You never get perfect. And I'll tell you, when it really kind of affects me the most, when the trauma comes back, is when I try to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That, my head hits the pillow and it's dark and there's nothing but me and my thoughts.
And you just think.
And if it sneaks in, if it just sort of creeps in, then my blood pressure goes up. I can feel myself getting excited. I'm supposed to be going to sleep, and instead, I'm having this little war in my head of these people.
I do the same. I can say that too. It happens to me when I'm like about to go to sleep. If my daughter is with her mom, is when I'm about to go to sleep. Everything's off. And then I won't even be thinking about it. And then it'll just pop into my head. And now that's all I'm thinking about. I can't get it out of my head. I'm either getting angry now, or I find myself, I don't know exactly how I'm feeling at that moment, but that 100% happens to me.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll try to fall asleep with, I'll have a headset on and I'll be, whatever it is, listening to a television program or music or something like that. And I find that keeps the other thoughts out when I do that.
I listen to a little bit of music now.
Yeah.
A little bit of music now but if my daughter's here, I listen to music. If it's just me, then I have my TV on pretty much all night.
Yeah. See, I've been a musician my whole life, so I don't usually use music to fall asleep because it
yeah, I got you.
It wakes me up in a totally different way. Now I'm trying to figure out what the chord progressions are and what they're doing and what the mix is and all the other stuff. So I'll use TV to keep the other thoughts out.
What'd you play?
I still do. I play and I teach guitar, bass, and drums.
Oh, I played the upright bass and the cello.
Oh man, the two fretless instruments. Wow. Wow.
I haven't played in a long time, but I played those. Those are my two that I grew up on. My parents made me pick something.
Oh, I so admire the technique that goes into those two instruments. I play bass, but I don't play upright.
Okay, yeah. I play upright with the picking with my fingers and with the bow.
Pizzicato.
Yes, sir.
With your fingers.
Yes, sir. So can you give us 2 stories, good or bad, about kinship care? Doesn't have to be from the assholes or anything, but just 2 stories,
2 stories, good or bad. I already shot the load on that one, didn't I? No, I can tell you some things that were good about kinship care. First of all, I was able to stay in the same school, right? So not to say I did my homework, but I was able to stay in the same school. And in fact, I got moved to a house that was much closer to my school. It was like almost across the street. So I could pretty much fall out of bed and into school. And the elements of freedom, were pretty amazing. Like I was always testing the waters. I'd see, like, I bought this gun. It was a toy gun, but it looked like a 38, and fired these cap blanks that had some real noise to them. Now my parents would never have let me have that, but here I am in this kinship house where I'm just not nearly as supervised.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that wasn't a horrible thing. It wasn't owning that cap pistol that sent me down a path of
No,
a
I got
juvenile
you.
delinquent.
'Cause
That's not what did it.
I've definitely had like a cap pistol and all the cap guns.
Yeah.
I had all of them.
So I mean, so that there were elements of that freedom that I think were actually better than living with my biological family. And it was basically a nice house. The first place that they put me, was basically a nice place. And so, yeah, that would have been way better than living with strangers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was other things down the road that then were horrible. And so the thing is, you're living in a house with people, and they're nice people, and you're getting along just fine. But they need a break too,
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, right? So they went away. And when they went away, they left me with somebody who they trusted implicitly. And that was a mistake, because this guy was just, I look back and I think about him now, and I think he was so ridiculously insecure. He was just so insecure that he was an adult male, like probably in his 30s at the time, and he had to dominate me. I was an 11-year-old boy. And his goal in life was to dominate me. He wasn't, checking on my homework. He wasn't supervising me any better. He just wanted to dominate me and control my actions and tell me when I could eat and how much I could eat. And, all kinds of weird stuff like that. And it's just because he was a freak.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. That's a bad story.
I got you.
And that, it can just happen. They didn't leave me with a guy who they thought was psycho on purpose.
Yeah, that was yeah.
I'm sure they just didn't know what they were doing, but they needed a vacation too. So
I got you. So
Yeah.
how would you rate the overall experience of being in kinship care?
Oh, it blows. There's nothing good about having your parents suddenly, well, in my case, my parents were suddenly removed from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I had to be removed from them. But there's no good, that comes of that. If there's a way that families could be kept together, and listen, I understand that there are certain circumstances where that is clearly not possible,
Mm-hmm.
where a child is in danger, in real danger. But that thing of separating a child from a household because of poverty, because the people are poor, that's a shitty reason.
Yeah.
To yank a child away from a home. And also, if support can be provided to families. Yeah, people get in situations where the court gets involved. And the moment the court gets involved, that biological family has to adhere to a set of living standards that normal people don't have to adhere to. A biological family, in order to get their kids back, they may have to be drug tested.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know a single family that would pass a drug test for weed. I don't know one.
Especially right now.
Why would you make these people do that? Right? Where's the sense in doing that? And there's absolutely no statistic in the world that says you can't smoke marijuana or have what do they call them? The ones you eat,
Edible.
and not be able to raise a child, that your child is now suddenly in danger, right? There's no evidence to say that.
I agree.
Why is that a reason you can't get your kids back? Right? I know I'm sort of taking a tangent here.
No, I agree. I agree.
There are just certain elements to why children are removed from families that would be so much better served by taking that same money, or maybe less, than the state spends on foster care, because let's face it, there's an economic component to this as well, right? Taking that same money and helping the family, providing support structures for the family, providing daycare,
and I
for
agree.
example.
Yes, sir.
Right? Take that same money or less, provide daycare for the family so that the people can go out and work. Right? I have a situation like that right now with Age Out Angels, where I have a young lady who has a child and needs to take a certification test. What does she do with that child while she's going to take the certification test? She doesn't have money to put him in daycare. So how is she supposed to advance her life? And then if she passes the test, get a job in that field, when all of her money would go to pay daycare. So, there are elements of the system that are set up in a way that almost feel like they're designed to take kids away.
That's how a lot of people get their money.
And then keep them away. Yeah, well, some people do make their money that way, it's true. For some people, that is, running a daycare house is their living. Not daycare, a foster house, is their living. That is true. But there's just, it seems to me that there are better ways to spend that money if your goal is to really keep a family together.
I agree with you on that. I agree, especially like you said with poverty. Like, I don't believe that's something that you should take. I feel like you should have more systems in place to help that family.
Women in New York, this is a true story, I think it was from the Bronx, New York, were afraid to go to the food pantry to get food for their kids because they were worried that they would then get reported as not having enough food to feed their kids, and then Child Protective Services would swoop in and take their kids away. So they weren't going to the food bank.
That's
for
nuts.
That purpose. I know a 19-year-old girl who was homeless with a 4-month-old child. She's afraid to tell Child Protective Services because she's worried that the first thing they'll do is take her kid away. Right? And then start going through the process of trying to get your kid
trying to
back.
help her. Yeah, that's the weird part to me. That's really weird. That will be that when you say that will be the first thing they do. They will take her child from her and then try to help her get on her feet or put it.
Then they'll place her in a foster home.
Yeah, and then make it even harder for her to get her back.
Oh, then they'll put all kinds of constraints on her. They'll say something like, you can have your kid back, but you have to graduate high school, right? And you have to show that you're employed, and you have to do, they'll give her 5 hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
That will take her 3 years to do, and then she'll fail a weed test.
True. True.
There's just, and this actually happens. This doesn't happen 99% of the time. But the fact that it happens to anybody, why should this ever happen to anybody? We're dwelling on some extreme cases here, but the fact is that they happen.
Yes, they do.
There's a law in New York State that they're trying to pass right now that says unless the judge gives a special order, you can't bring a child into court in shackles. There's stories of 8-year-old, 10-year-old boys being brought into court for their court dates, not just in handcuffs, but in those shackles that go from your wrists to your feet, right around your back. So when you walk, you walk like your
it's like a chain gang.
Steps are impeded, like chain gang, exactly. Now, who would have ever thought to bring a 10-year-old boy into a courtroom like that?
I'll say this one story. I was about probably 7, 8 years old. I was living with my father at the time. He wasn't at home. I was with his girlfriend and her family. And our house got raided by the police. They kicked the door down. They got everybody out the house, but they handcuffed me. Mind you, I'm only 7 years old. They handcuffed me, brought me outside, pushed me against the bushes, did all type of extra stuff, and then took us all down to the station. I'm only 7, and I'm handcuffed the entire time.
In front or behind?
Behind.
Jeez.
The entire time.
And see, you were 7 years old, and now you're a grown man, and that never left you.
No.
That stays with you forever. You can still feel those bushes against your face, right?
Yeah.
You know exactly what those bushes feel like.
I remember everything about that night. I remember everything. That's something that will never leave me. Period. At all.
Yeah. Absolutely. And dude, that's where the white privilege comes in. I got to tell you, because when I was in the house that got raided, I wasn't treated that way. I wasn't treated nicely, okay, but I wasn't treated like that. I wasn't cuffed and slapped around.
Yeah, no, I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That's where white privilege comes in.
So, how was the transition from being in kinship care and then being on your own?
Well, there were a lot of years in between kinship care and being on my own. But I'll tell you something that being in kinship care and being away from my family taught me was the sheer value of being independent. So, what did kinship care teach me? I was 11 years old when I was in kinship care. I got my first job when I was 12. That was it. I was going to make money. I was not going to be ever beholden to anybody, and I saw how fast my parents could be taken away from me. Right? I mean, they both almost died. We were in a car accident that was so bad. Our car flipped over 6 to 8 complete revolutions down a hill. It's like a movie car accident, Both of my parents could have been dead just like that. Right? And I learned that. And so I thought, shit, I am never going to need, not from anybody. So when I was 12 is when I went to work. And when I was 15, I even left school early at the end of the school year so I could start my summer job a month ahead of time. Okay? So it gave me this kind of fierce drive. And you can look at that and say, boy, that was a real positive thing. And maybe it was and maybe it wasn't. Because you know what my father said to me? He goes, why are you working so hard, man? You go to school. You're going to work the whole rest of your damn life. You don't need to be doing this now. And I said, no, I don't give a damn. And I would work. I wouldn't just get a job. I would work 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I had one job where I worked 107 hours a week.
Oof.
All right. Do you know what that is? Like in real time? That is 7 days a week. All right. 6 days you work 9 a.m. to midnight. And one of the 7 days you work from noon to midnight. We used to call that our half day.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Did that for like a whole summer to make enough money to last, the rest of the year. Because I did go to school.
Yeah.
During the winter, but I'd have enough money to put myself through college, whatever. I owed no one anything. I borrowed nothing. I owed nothing.
That's a different type of mindset.
It's fierce.
That's
it is fierce. It is fiercely driven.
Yeah.
And the pity of it there is you can work 200 hours a week. Who gives a damn at $2.25 an hour? You're never going to get anywhere. My dad was right. You see, it's the education.
Yeah.
That matters. It's the education that puts you in a position to be an earner.
So would you advise kids to either go to college or go to get trades?
As long as DCP&P is willing to pay your way work as little as possible and get as much education as you can. Now, I'm not saying don't work, because when you work, that's how you learn money management. So a weekend job, something that puts a little money in your pocket, learn the 50% rule. Whatever you earn, you spend half and you save half. If you do that from the time you're in high school, you'll have a little money saved by the time you age out.
Got you.
So that's number one. Number two is, if your parents are deceased, make sure you contact the Social Security Administration and find out if you are owed money. Because if your parents have passed away, you're supposed to get money every month. And it's supposed to be held in trust for you until you turn 18. And what happens is, instead of keeping that money in trust, the local foster care office will steal that money from you. So if your parents are deceased, you must call the Social Security Administration and find out if there's $5,000 sitting there waiting for you to claim.
Would it still be there, like, later on in life?
Well, it wouldn't be there, but they still have to make good on it.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, so there's a whole process for this. You call the Social Security office and you find out who was the recipient of those checks. Did those checks go to your aunt who stole them from you, or did they go to, the Social Security office who stole them from you? But they went somewhere. There was a receiver of those checks, and if you didn't get them, you can then make the case that Social Security has to take new money and reimburse you.
Okay, that's some great information right there. Because I got one of my best friends. His parents both were deceased when he was a kid, so that's something that I'm going to share with him as well.
Absolutely, and feel free to, if you want to give him my email or any kind of stuff like that, so that I can give him the step-by-step.
Okay.
Because there's a procedure that you have to follow.
Okay, I will.
Right.
So, with you going through kinship care, was it hard for you and your parents going through the car, and you guys going through the car accident? Was it hard for you to actually, like, trust people at that point?
After that asshole that I got stuck living with, and then after, like, yes, I mean, that whole experience I was totally trusting person, until that whole experience, and that experience taught me, I don't know, are we allowed to curse?
Yes, sir.
Then fuck them. That's what it taught me. It's, I'm the only one who can make my life be for me. Nobody else can do that for me. My parents can't do that for me. They're nice. They put food on the table. God bless them. But I'm the only one who can make my life. And anybody who comes at me is always coming at me, even if they're coming at me friendly. They're coming at me with some kind of a motive. What's your game?
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I need to know. And I see that all the time in the kids that we work with. I mean, think about this. I get introduced to a 16-year-old African-American boy, who looks at me and says, who is this stupid old white guy now? Who's going to what? He's going to be like the next person to tell me what I have to do. Isn't this great? And so, his life has taught him the very same thing. He has absolutely no reason to trust me. None whatsoever. And it takes a very long time for me to gain that trust from people, and to make the point clear that it doesn't matter that we don't look the same. It doesn't matter that we're not the same age. It doesn't matter that we might not be the same gender. None of those things really matter. What matters is, if I'm putting an organization like Age Out Angels together, where everyone is a volunteer and their only goal is to help you be the best you can be, and there is no ulterior motive. But it takes a long time to make that point, because what the kids are used to is everybody has an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
So you come out and you say, no, I don't have an ulterior motive. They go, their bullshit meter comes up right away.
That's
Uh-oh.
the thing I've been talking about. For me personally, it's more about actions. Like you can talk all you want. Like you can say, um, I'm always gonna think you have an alternative motive. Like that's just me personally. Like I will always think that someone has an alternative motive at this point in my life. Um, but how when you are talking about the things that you're talking about, like how are your actions representing the things that you're talking about? You know, like how am I seeing you? How am I? I don't even know how to explain it really. Um, how everything that I don't see that person doing any other things that they're talking about doing,
Sure.
but they're talking about it.
Uh,
Like you can
they,
talk all you want, but if I don't see it, then I'm not gonna believe it.
they don't walk the walk. They just talk the talk.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, I had this great conversation with this gentleman you should meet if you don't already know him, named Tyrone Miller.
I
Do you
haven't.
know Tyrone?
No.
Tyrone is a motivational speaker who works with young people, um, and that's his day job is to do that. And um, so we were. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was talking to Tyrone, and yes, okay. So the issue comes up a lot of race because we're a whole bunch of white people in my organization, and we're trying to help mostly African American children, right?
Hmm.
And the issue comes up of how can a person take advice from someone that doesn't look like them? They look at you and they don't see anyone they want to be like, right? I'm talking to Tyrone the other day, and Tyrone is an African American gentleman, okay? And he said to me, well, guess what? The same thing works in reverse. He works at an all white upper class school, okay? Because what do you think? You know, all these rich white kids look at me and say, what the hell am I supposed to learn from you?
I agree.
But you know what he said to me is pretty much exactly what you just said, which is it's not about that. You have to develop relationships where people see what you do, see that you're sincere in what you do, see that you have something to offer. You know, you can be as sincere as you want. If you're stupid, it doesn't help, you know? But see that you
Spot
have
on.
some wisdom or something that, you know, that you can offer in a path that they can walk. And he said it works the same in reverse. It's the same thing. You still have to make relationships with people for as long as that takes.
Hmm. See, my foster mom, who I'm 27, she got me when I was 15. She's white as can be.
Yeah,
I love her to the moon and back. You know, without like that is my mom.
that's cool. That's good. I hope that there comes a day when race isn't even a discussion
Hmm.
anymore. You know, I would love it if that, because that's a cultural invention. You know, racial differences we're not born with those. That's a cultural invention.
I
That,
feel
you know,
I feel like I feel like there's so many people have their guards up at all times, that if you just took the time out to I would say this, from growing up in Inglewood, California, um, and then being placed into like the suburbs of San Dimas, California, is a complete culture shock. But it taught me how to, um, what I say, interact. It taught me how to interact, and it taught me how to. Um, I saw a difference in people. So I grew up in Inglewood, where it's majority black and Mexican people, and you act a certain way around your family, your friends, um, in that type of environment. But when you get placed into an environment where you don't know no one, which I got placed into a group home at first in the same city my mom got me from, um, in San Dimas, I was placed in a group home which I didn't know anyone, but majority of the people there were white, and this is a completely different setting to what I'm used to. So now I have to see how everyone there operates. How do I talk to this person? Can I say this without this person getting offended? It helps you later on in life to realize, let's say you are getting a job at a company and you have to go through an interview. Growing up in the suburbs helped me do that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't know. It's hard to
Absolutely.
explain. It's hard to explain, but that
No,
was
it's
a
not. It's no. It makes perfect sense. You know the analogy that I use. If I were to go to Puerto Rico and try to work, right?
mhm.
The best I could do would be to learn Spanish and learn as much about Puerto Rican culture as I possibly can
Yeah.
because I need to work. It doesn't mean I stop being a white guy from New Jersey. It just means that I need to assimilate into this culture enough to make a living and support myself and maybe even move forward and contribute to it,
Mhm.
right? So you know, unwittingly, I guess, through no fault of your own, San Dimas is like the setting of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yes, it
There
is.
isn't there isn't a white person in that whole auditorium. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
there
it
isn't a
is.
black person,
Yeah, no,
you know,
no, not at
in
all.
that.
Like it's
Yeah,
my high school probably had probably like 20 of us. 20,
right,
20
right.
black
So,
students at the high school.
so do you feel that that experience somehow made you lose touch with whatever your racial past?
No, I feel like it helped.
Good.
I feel like it,
That's
it 100% helped me because um, when you don't have when you grow up like that and you don't have the right role models around, um, growing up in LA or something like that, if you don't have the right role models and someone to actually teach you um, how to interact with certain people and carry yourself with morals and respect, then you're not going to really succeed in anything that you do. I had I left by me leaving that environment and being around the people that I was around out in San Dimas. That taught me that. My mom is the one who taught me that okay, sometimes you're not in Inglewood, you're in San Dimas at this time. That's not going to work here. You need to figure out how to flip it so that it's a positive and that people can gravitate towards that because that's not going to work. Like understand your morals. I want you to have morals. I want you to have respect for yourself and for others. Like, and I wouldn't have learned that where I was at.
yeah,
There's too much. There's too much gang culture around. There's too much um, people with guns. Too much drugs. Um,
yeah,
and I wouldn't.
yeah.
I
I meet a
wouldn't have
lot.
learned it.
I meet a lot of people who are, you know, in the circumstance that you came from, and I can tell you that you know what seems to me is missing from their lives, and what we try to give them at Age Out Angels is a sense of what joy is, because you know they're tough, they're hard on the streets, they know how to survive, you know they got all this sense of how they think, you know, the world is, and they react to it the way they think it is. It may not ever get them very far. It may end up, you know, getting them in jail or dead. But it's their lives, you know, and what they're happy with, but they lack joy.
Hmm.
And so that's the level that we try to reach them on,
I
you know.
I feel like a lot of kids have to grow up so fast. Um,
Oh yeah,
they have to grow up
yeah,
so fast that they don't, like you said, they don't have the joy. They don't have the joy and recognize how it is to be a child.
sure.
Like just
Seven
being
years
like
old, cuffed and smacked around.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's
No, no. I didn't realize what it was to actually be like a. Cause I mean I'm not like I can't lie. I was a pretty bad kid when it came to like being in school or something. Like I was fighting all the time. I was just angry. I was an angry kid. Um, but I didn't get that joy and honestly of being a child wasn't until I got with my mom and I got to do all my childhood stuff when I was like 15 years old.
how about that.
So it's
Wow.
like that's most people don't get that. So when they get they don't get to be a child. So when they turn 18, like the only thing they know is the people that's around them. So that's why they join gangs, or that's why they do the things that's going to end up in debt or in jail.
Yeah.
It's like that's what I'm trying to get to on here too. Is that I want them to realize that we all went through the same exact things that they're probably going through or did go through, but hopefully you can take some of the information that we're giving you and turn it into something positive for yourself. I can't make
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
I can't make
Yeah.
you. You're your own person, but hopefully you can. And that's what I want for the show, for just people to be
Yeah,
like,
well,
help me.
if people can find a way to compartmentalize their trauma so that it's not an obstacle, that's that trauma that you face is the biggest obstacle along the way. It's the thing that makes you want to, smoke a little too much weed and self-anesthetize yourself. It's the thing that it dulls the pain a little bit when you do that. I perfectly understand that. But if you can compartmentalize that trauma so that you can still feel it, but it's not an obstacle, then you can take charge of your life.
Do you allow the childhood trauma to affect you today?
Absolutely. It's there. It is freaking there. You cannot get rid of it, so it's there. Yeah.
That's yeah. I'm 27 as well, so it's like I still deal with it every day. I still think about it all the time. So it's not like it's something that's gonna happen overnight. It's just, what can you do to? Are you going to allow that to weigh you down, or are you going to pick yourself up and continue to move positively towards something better for yourself?
But I think a lot of the mistake that people make sometimes is when they hear what we're saying right now, they think that you have to somehow take that trauma and just sort of squash it.
Yeah, no.
Like squash it, put it out of your mind. You gotta, and you can't do that. You have to, because when you do that, you're also squashing your feelings. And you have to allow yourself to have a full slate of feelings, a full palette of sadness and anger and joy. You also have to allow the joy to come into your life. So I hope when people listen to this, they're not hearing us say you got to take those feelings of that trauma and squash them and put them aside and not feel them, because they're real feelings. And I'm telling you, at the age of 66, you're going to feel them forever. That's a part of you. You just got to be able to put it aside long enough to get shit done.
That's perfect. So we're at the part now where it's about you. Like, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm busier now than I ever was, man. I am in the daytime. I'm still the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. I was on with a 17-year-old young man 5 minutes before I came on with you, and we are developing the most incredible educational program. Can I tell you about this?
Yes, sir.
I am so proud of this. Unfortunately, it's only for New Jersey. It's not for out of state yet. But you see, only 50% of children in foster care ever actually graduate high school. And 10% of children who enter high school will never graduate. They just won't. They're the 10%. It's a statistic. And what we found is that young people who are in foster care, and especially if they've aged out already, have some pretty severe life challenges at this point. I know women who have 1, 2, 3, even 4 kids who are 22 years old and never finished high school, right? People age out, they have to work. They got to work a full-time job, maybe more, maybe overtime, in order to support themselves and have a place to live. You need a car nowadays. All those things, they have these challenges that are so real, daycare challenges. They can't go to school. You can say school starts at 9, Yeah, well, screw you. I have to take care of my mother.
I got you.
Glad school starts at 9. It was no good for me when I was 15. It's no good for me now at 20.
Yes, sir.
Right? All right. So if kids can't come to school, we want to bring the school to the children. Okay? And what that means is, for that young lady who has 4 kids, the only time she can realistically have a clear mind is around 9 o'clock at night. When she puts the kids to bed. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when she can. All right. So what we want to do is we'll provide a tutor for her, a private tutor, at 9 o'clock at night. And she can work with that private tutor. And what we found is that in working with a private tutor, if you do that, like say 2, maybe 3 hours a week, it can't be once a week. It's got to be at least twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
You can increase an entire grade level in 8 weeks. So if you dropped out of school in 8th grade, in about like half a year, maybe 32, 34, 36 weeks, if you dropped out of school in 8th grade, you can have enough knowledge to get your GED, to pass that test.
Okay, I get you.
Okay? And we will bring the school to you. But, like you were saying a few minutes ago, you still got to be willing to accept it.
Yeah.
You got to let it in. You can't let that trauma, keep you from thinking clearly at 9 o'clock at night in that situation, right? You have to be able to do it. But I think it's the best education program in the country.
That's amazing.
I don't know of any other, that comes close to that. And the tutors are wonderful. They're good volunteers. And you tell us your schedule, and we will find someone who will work with you, at the time that's most convenient to you. So in the daytime, I do that, and at nighttime, I teach music and play, do shows and things like that.
That's the first and foremost, the education part is amazing. Like I've never heard that before.
I think we invented it. I really do.
That's pretty cool. You do like local shows or?
Yeah, mostly local. I try not to travel too far away from home because I really have to stay true to Age Out Angels.
Okay.
The entertainment stuff is what I do for fun. I meet a lot of young people. When I do it, I learn from kids what, and stay current about new songs and things like that.
I got you.
So it's great. In fact, I love doing it, but nothing like helping a young person who's in foster care try to find their way. That's like amazingly rewarding.
How can we get kids to move into that direction rather than spiral back to the situation, to what they already know?
Well, you have to love them and you have to not abandon them. See, that's kind of where the whole system as it exists right now can fall apart even when it's going well, is when someone shows love to a foster child and then says, "Oh, you're 18, sign here, bye." What, I just lost somebody I count on, right? How did that happen? And a kid in New Jersey turns 21 and everybody who was helping him disappears. There's nobody left. He has to even get a new pediatrician, a new doctor, because he's too old for his pediatrician. So the first thing that you have to do is love them and not abandon them. You have to be nice, but you have to be nice over the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I tell the kids when they join Age Out Angels, I say, look, our goal is to dance at your wedding. That's what we want to do. And it's going to happen. One kid who we started with about 3 or 4 years ago told me a few months ago that he is engaged. Now I said, you don't have to pay for us. Like, we'll buy our own table at your wedding, but we're going to be there.
That's amazing.
To dance at your wedding. And his mentor, will stay with him in some way, shape, or form forever. His mentor will always be available to talk, or, even to take him to a ball game, even when he's a dad himself.
So does the foundation give out mentors?
We do. That's what we do, is we provide a one-to-one mentor
Oh,
for
okay.
children who that's what our organization does. And the whole thing is individualized. That's the mentorship program. There's the education program and there's the mentorship program. So
Okay.
what our organization does, the main thing that we do is we give an adult mentor to a young person who's in foster care, and it's a one-to-one relationship, and that mentor will stay with that young person when they're an old person. That they understand when they get into this that it's a forever commitment that they're making. Um, and then we have the education program as kind of a separate thing. Lots of times, though, the educational tutor, evolves into being a
A
mentor.
mentor.
Well, they just develop a closeness.
Yeah. You see, one thing that I'm just gonna say, it's off topic. We were talking about it earlier, and it just popped into my head. Um, with kinship care, now that I can remember, I spent my entire life in kinship care until I was in foster care. I
Yeah,
I
right.
never
Yeah,
lived
I hear
with
you.
I never lived with my mom ever in my life.
Yeah, yeah,
Period.
yeah,
She chose drugs. Um, my dad tried. I lived with my dad probably for 2 years, but he was there. Sometimes he wasn't there. Like he was there. Sometimes he wasn't there. Um,
yeah,
but I lived with my dad for 2 years. But then I lived with my grandparents. They placed me with my grandparents. And then after my grandparents, I got placed like directly into the system. So at that point, it's like I've been since the day I was born. I was pretty much being placed in kinship care and fought into the system.
yeah. That's the only life you knew, was not having a mother and father and
Yeah,
family.
no like
Yeah,
my grandparents gave me a little bit of stability, something I can never take away from them. They gave me stability and a good foundation. Um, some of the shit that they did was definitely out of hand,
yeah,
but they did give me a foundation. Um, but that's all I know. That's crazy to think about it, and I never thought about it like that until right now,
yeah.
which is
Yeah. So
nuts.
did you ever like when you put it in that context? Did you ever like look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and see which one of your needs was being met and which ones weren't?
Um, n- it depends on what situation I was in. Like
Yeah.
I don't. Now that you said, that's crazy. Now that you just said that, it's like a lot of things are just flooding into my head. Um, I'll say with my grandparents, my grandpa and my grandma, or my dad's parents, who I lived with later on. I can say that I always had a house, a roof over my head.
Okay.
I always had food in my mouth. They never starved me or anything. Um, so necessity needs, like we're
Hmm.
thinking about that. I've always had the necessities of living, always. Um, as a the things that they did um, was just uncalled for.
Right.
Um, so that's the only thing that I can say that I've thought about. Um, the other two situations, I can say the same thing for those two. Like my grandma, my mom's mom, who I lived with from the day I was born until I was like 6 years old, 7 years old, until she passed. Um, she did everything she can. She not only had me by herself, but she's a 56-year-old woman who has me, my three older brothers, um, my and my two cousins, in a
Wow.
three-bedroom house by herself. So these are things like
What a woman.
yeah. So I was so I can think of it like that, but at the same time I can think of she did everything she can. Like like we were bad as shit. We were pretty bad kids. I'm not gonna lie, we're pretty bad kids growing up in South Central. Um, but so I can't really put it in that stance for her. My dad's situation with him and his girlfriend, I can't really put in a sense for her because I've they had they gave me my basic essentials as well. You know, that I had a house, I had food, I didn't have to worry about anything like that.
Clothing.
I had clothing. Um,
What about safety? Did you always feel like sort of safe and secure? Or did
no,
you feel like your
like
safety was threatened?
I say the first two, with my dad, not my dad. Well, yeah, with my dad and my grandma, my mom's mom. Um, Safety wasn't a problem inside of the house. It was morally outside of the house.
Uh-huh.
So like growing up in South Central and Inglewood, it's like you gotta worry about what colors you're wearing, um,
Hmm.
um, how you come off to people, what you say, just different things like that. So I'll say more of that came from outside of the house.
Okay.
Um, but with my grandparents or for my dad, that's when I was scared because I was the one who actually told my grandparents that I didn't want to live with them anymore. I wasn't taken away.
Oh. But it sounds like where they then took you was worse.
Yeah, I got taken from my grandparents' house and placed directly into a level 12 lockdown facility group home.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's like it's basically a place where they send you um, right before you go to juvie.
Yeah.
But
Huh.
I've never been in any type of legal um, trouble in my life.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but that's where they send me at. But safety wise, that's the only place where like I didn't know. I still got bruises on me to today.
So once you're in the group home, then your safety inside
Oh, that's shitty.
becomes called into question, right?
If your safety inside the group home is awful, like you ain't really got no safety in the group home. Other
So
like
what I'm doing right now is I'm working our way up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? And we're sort of stalled on the second rung from the bottom,
hmm
okay? And without a sense of personal security, right? Without a sense of personal security, health, employment, direction in life, stuff like that, that all add up to safety, then it becomes very difficult to develop friendships, intimate relationships, right? A sense of family, all those things don't get developed under the kind of environment that you're describing.
because friendship wise, it doesn't get developed because you really don't. At that point, you guys, if I'm gonna say put it in the stance of me being in a group home, um, everyone's in that group home is mad, angry, have every type of emotion possible that are sitting in that group home. And you all are around the same age group, so you see nothing but fighting, you see nothing but arguing, you see nothing but people getting jumped. A lot of people got placed in these group homes from LA, so it's a lot of gang activity. Um, um, and I didn't really learn. Like I had two friends inside of the group home, three friends inside of the group home, that I wouldn't necessarily say like we connected on like an emotional level, but we connected as in we weren't going to let anything happen to each other. Um, like if he was going to get in a fight, then I was going to get in a fight if someone wants to jump him. So it was more of that type of relationship to where it's like nothing's going to happen to us while we're here.
That's army buddies.
Yeah. So, but I didn't learn how to have friends
Yeah.
until my mom changed that. That's when I met my best friend, which I'll tell a quick story. My best friend, my mom runs a daycare. She ran a daycare for about 20 years in San Diego, California. Um, She got me when I was 15 out of McKinley's group home, boys home. Um, and then I ended up playing basketball at San Dimas High School. Well, my best friend also played basketball with me at San Dimas High School, and my mom picked us up from practice one day and took us home. And my best friend was like, I was telling her, like, yeah, this is Jared. He lives down here. We're going to take him home. We went to take him home. And my grandma was like, my mom was like, is your grandma name is this? He was like, yeah. And he was like, your mom's name is this? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, how do you know that? He was like, you don't remember me? I used to babysit you when you were a baby. My mom used to babysit him and his other two brothers when they were like infant babies.
Was he 6'2" at this point in his life?
Yeah, like but it was but she babysat him for like 4 years at the house. And it was amazing how it just turned, like how that entire story just flipped around. It's like, I'm 15, she babysitted you, now you my best friend, and that was crazy to me.
Yeah. Sometimes when the world is small, it can be a wonderful thing.
All right, so this is the last question of the day. Who do you want to give your flowers to? Like, who helped you out that you just want to say thank you to?
Who helped me out?
It can be like the people in your company who's helping you now, the all the tutors, like you said, it's volunteering, so they're doing it out of the kindness of their hearts.
The part of the reason that I do what I do right now is having come to terms with the fact that the best thing I had in my life was parents. I had that. I didn't always like them. And I have a feeling they didn't always like me. I was generally known as a pretty good kid, but that was because no one knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I learned very young, if you're going to get in trouble, you get in trouble alone.
Alone.
You don't get in trouble with a group of kids who one of them will give you away.
Yep, yeah, gonna snitch on you.
So I stole a car when I was 12, but I didn't get in trouble for it.
I stole a car when I stole a car when I was 15, and I hit my brother's car.
Oh God.
Yeah.
See, I didn't go very far. I stole this car when I was 12, right? I went a few blocks, and it occurred to me that I was the worst freaking driver in the world. This sucked. It was only fun to steal it. It's no fun at all to drive it. So I just pulled over, got the hell out. But it was. I'm telling you, it was just the fact that I had two parents who did the best they could. At raising me, and so that's what made the most profound difference in my life of all the other things that happened. I mean, there was a teacher here and there, and a mentor here and there in my professional career and stuff like that. But it all goes back to the beginning. It all goes back to the fact that my life would have been so totally different if both of my parents had died that day. Mm-hmm. In the car accident. I would not be sitting here talking to you right now in street clothes.
I got you. I got you. And I can say the same thing. If my mom didn't get me, I probably would not. No, I wouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah.
I can say that for sure. I'll be back in Inglewood doing dumb shit.
Exactly. I would have taken that bomb making ability and blown up somebody. I would have killed somebody. That's what would have happened. I wouldn't have meant to, but that's what, or myself. But that's what. Did you ever build and explode a bomb?
Like a pipe bomb.
Yeah, well, it's a shit ton of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, blowing stuff up in its purest form, firing a gun or blowing things up. Those are fun. They're a lot of fun to do, but put that kind of firepower in the hands of a brainless 15-year-old. Mm-hmm. And what can go right?
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with you on that one. Because We were doing this shit, and I was only what, like 8. We were doing shit only 8. I remember one time we set the side of the 10 freeway on fire.
The side of the free. Okay.
The entire side of the freeway. And without thinking about it, we're so dumb. Our house is next to the side of the freeway. So our house could have burned down and everything too. But we TP'd the entire side and set it on fire just because. It wasn't no motive behind it. We just wanted to do it.
Yep.
You know, so it's like I can see. So that's what my thought was, go to my mom. She saved me.
Good. Good. If you have someone who saves you, and we hope to be that in Age Out Angels. If you don't have someone who cares about you, if you don't have someone who's just going to listen to you when you need somebody to, to talk to, and someone who's going to be there for the long haul, we want to provide that person. And then maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to find some joy in living to balance out, those horrible things that you went through and move your life forward. But that's what I see as a lot of kids who never have that.
And with that being said, that was a great segment on how to end in this. So I am Michael McMillan. This is I Am Foster. This is Greg Rapport. He is the founder and director, executive director of Age Out Angels. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, man.